Hello, my friends, and welcome to Weekly Wrangle number 25. Before we get started today, I want to talk about some changes and improvements to the Weekly Wrangle. One improvement that I was thinking about recently is this. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, in my opinion, to have the Weekly Wrangle go live. And the reason why that's the case is because when I'm trying to put out a topic that's there to enhance people's career, and these are serious topics, right? They're thorough, complicated topics about how to go beyond the hard skills and how to orient yourself for better success. So what gets in the way of that is the countdown and the technical glitches and the fact that sometimes my internet isn't so great and the bandwidth gets really cut off and it's choppy. Those things get in the way of what I'm trying to say to people out there. And so what you'll find is that anytime I go into one of these career enhancing topics, I'm not going to do that live. I'm going to make sure that those things don't get in the way and upload that as a normal video. So that's number one. Also, I like to enhance the offering that I give my subscribers. And so what's going to happen with that is I'll be doing a weekly wrangle every single week, but only one of those wrangles each month is going to make its way to YouTube, and the rest is going to be archived at CG Forge for subscribers. I just think it's fair that the subscribers at CG Forge get subscriber-only wrangles. I think it really enhances what they are subscribing to, and I think that it's just more fair that way to folks who are into that. Now, if you aren't a full access subscriber, you do have the option of doing something cheaper at the resources subscription. And that just gives you the Node Bible and it gives you the Weekly Wrangle. So that's at a really affordable price in comparison to the full access. And anyway, if you want to check out wrangles every single week, that's the way to do it from now on. And once a month, you'll see that pre-recorded wrangle show up on YouTube. And lastly, one more thing is I think it's also a good idea to have a wrangle that's on YouTube where we are live and we're just hanging out. Kind of like the live from Mexico wrangle that we did a few wrangles back. We're all just hanging out. I'm talking with you guys on the chat. We're doing Q&A. We're going over reels. We're talking about art. It's more laid back. It's not about creating life-altering, presentations necessarily. It's more about talking about CG, networking with each other, and having a good time. Right now, we are already at September 19th. Can you believe it? What's going to happen on the first Monday of every month is I'll release the pre-recorded wrangle. And then the last Monday of the month, so that's going to be here in October, the 25th, that's when we'll do the live hangouts where we talk about reels and, all that stuff. For the other days of the month, that's the 18th and 11th, you'll find subscriber-only wrangles being dropped on CG Forge. And that format will continue with every month. So again, first Monday puts it on YouTube. Last Monday is going to be when we hang out live. And I do honestly apologize for these changes. I know it's jarring to have the times change and this format change all everywhere, but we're figuring this out as we go, and I am fully committed to making content that's better and better each time for you guys. Now, as for today's wrangle, I want to offer something special. This particular topic is one of the things that influenced me to make the Weekly Wrangle in the first place. The topic is how to understand various types of success. Because every single major decision we make in our life has context in what success means to us. And if you don't know the different types of success, then it's hard for you to really know what type of success matters to you the most And if you can't figure that out, then how can you make any major life decision without just it being essentially a stab in the dark? So it's a very important topic. And without further ado, let's check it out. In this week's Weekly Wrangle, I want to talk about understanding the various forms of success. Success doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. It's not created equally, and we're not going to be able to reach all forms of success that we'd like to by the end of our lives. So prioritizing the type of success that matters to you is a very, very important thing for everybody to do for themselves at some point in their life. But that starts with understanding the various types of success. So for this, I'm going to borrow some fantastic ideas from Tim Urban. He's the writer of a blog called Wait, But Why? And in this particular article, we're going to take a look at various types of success and how that might apply to a 3D artist, or how that might be taken down into some sort of practical form that makes a difference in your life. So let's check it out. So the title of this article is How to Pick a Career That Actually Fits You, but the content here goes way beyond a career, because this really has everything to do with how you organize your priorities in life. So if we go down towards this area, and this is all great stuff to read, by the way, so just for the sake of time, I'm going to skip over here to the yearning octopus. But this is definitely worth checking out and reading in full at some point or another. Anyway, here we have the yearning octopus. And what is this guy all about? Well, each tentacle of this octopus represents some sort of form of success. And we have personal, lifestyle, social, moral, and practical. So what do all of these tentacles do? Well, the personal has to do with achieving potential, self-esteem, identity, passion, meaning, and I would also argue a degree of spirituality. It's about self-realization. It's about being able to come in tune with the divine around you. And that's a form of success right here. Lifestyle is another type, where it's more about having the means to live the lifestyle you want, the freedom, and all the joys and benefits of being able to do or have the options of doing whatever you'd like. Balance, to keep a nice habits and to keep balance in your health and in life in general. Flexibility and ease. Also, we have social. So this is more socially oriented. So it's about power, appreciation, inclusion, respect, status, approval, and fame. The moral tentacle is about altruism in general. So that's about making an impact. It's about investing in the well-being of loved ones, reducing suffering in the world, and improving the future. And then lastly, we also have the practical tentacle. So this is more about having the means to enact any of the other tentacles. So that's not being in debt or not having crushing debt. It means having food. It means security. And so all these different tentacles are things that we have to try to balance in our life. And all of us want some form or another of these tentacles to come true for ourselves. But the big question is, which one matters more to you? The tentacle that makes the most sense to start with is the practical tentacle. So this, again, is not being in debt, or I should say having debt that isn't crushing you, having food, and having security. And a really good way to think about this is it's very similar to the foundation, to the level 1 that's described in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're familiar with that. Basically, if you don't have shelter, if you don't have food, if you know that your life could be in some sort of immediate danger, then nothing else you do matters until you figure that out. In other words, if you don't have enough money to have food or shelter or the basics to just get by on life, then you can't ever achieve those other areas of potential. those other areas are going to be stunted because nothing else matters until you figure that out. And so the thing about the practical and what kind of makes it a little bit special is that that needs to come together before you have the opportunity to invest in any of the other tentacles to the full potential. As an example, if let's say the moralistic tentacle matters to you the most, and you're all about altruism, you're all about helping people, making good for the world, that good that you would like to do is going to be stunted by the fact that you're broke. And, it's not to say you can't do any good in the world. It's just to say that your potential in meeting a high level of where you would like to go in that is going to be stunted unless you have the basic necessities to be at your best self. So the practical tentacle isn't about being rich. It's more about having enough to get by so that your biological stressors aren't going to block off everything else from being possible. And one more story just to show you guys how relevant this really is. If you are broke or if you grew up in a poor family, you probably know this inherently. But many times people leave their parents' house or they're off on their own for the first time and they don't really appreciate how important that practical tentacle is. If you don't have money, if you truly fear that you might not be able to afford food tomorrow, then that fear overrides any higher version of yourself. And the only thing that matters is figuring out how to get food tomorrow. And, I've personally experienced that before. Before CG Forge, I was delivering pizza. And the reason why I was doing that was just to get enough money to have food and gas in the tank and just to have basic necessities to get me by on life. When you're at that point and you have $20 in the bank, you can't really reach for the higher things that you'd like to do. So that's why this practical tentacle is super important. Assuming that you have the basic necessities to get by in life and that you're not stressed out about that, then all the other things become possible. So what about this personal tentacle? I would honestly liken this to being as close as spiritual fulfillment as what you'll find in this diagram. And by spiritual fulfillment, I don't mean going to church and doing prayers and doing this and that. If that's your thing, fine. If not, that's okay too. This is really more so about at least understanding yourself, understanding your past, coming to grips with death and what lies beyond death and what your reaction is to the inevitable death that you are going to have. This is more about understanding who you are, achieving your potential, and trying to align yourself with the divine in some kind of way. And so if we take a look at some of the points that's made here, it's really trying to bear the burden of fulfillment. What does it mean to be a fulfilled person? That's what this personal tentacle is all about. It's not about being comfortable. It's not about having all the options and freedoms in the world to do whatever you want. This is all about becoming the person that you're meant to be and figuring that out and taking the risks necessary to go out there and do it. I would argue that almost all of your innovators out there, the people that are out there to reinvent whatever it is that they do, if you're a painter, if you're a 3D artist that's not trying to go by what studios care about, if you're just trying to go out there and seek that spiritual fulfillment of becoming the artist that you were born to be, as an example, then that sort of success can be found on the personal tentacle. As said by Ben Schneider from Lord Huron, who's one of my favorite artists, I made a life out of chasing the ghost. And that's really what this personal tentacle is all about. It's about trying to chase the divine through self-understanding, through contribution in the world around you. And again, it's about becoming the person that you're meant to be. Hopefully that makes sense. It's a little bit difficult to describe because it's very, personal to you as to what that is, but it's different than the other tentacles because you are concerned about who you are meant to be. And that's not quite the same as being moralistic, about caring about lifestyle, or defining yourself more within a social context. So somebody who's very individual, who's going down their own path, the innovators of the world, and whatever that might be, see success through the lens of the personal tentacle. Next, we have the social tentacle. This is all about power, approval, appreciation, status, inclusion, respect, and fame. And I would liken this to, again, being aligned with the purpose in your life, but putting the context more within a group or contributing to a group. Those of you who are concerned about being leaders, about making enriching experiences for the people around you through living in the presence, living in a rich presence by having fun with your friends, as an example. That's more about what the social tentacle is concerned with. And this is probably the most primitive animal side, with the core drive stemming back to our tribal evolutionary past. So if you feel deep down like you want to be part of a tribe, and all of us do because that's just part of us, but if that's your main thing that you feel like you need to go into, then that is more of what the social tentacle is all about. Unlike the personal tentacle, people who value social success see the lens through the group rather than themselves, the individual. This is not the same as altruism, because altruism doesn't necessarily have to be about the group dynamics necessarily. There can be very independent people who have altruistic drive that aren't very socially motivated, as an example. But if you're somebody who, let's say, cares about your legacy or thinks about your legacy or wants to have fun, and that's really that sort of enriching experience that you want to manifest for yourself and a group of people, that's what the social tentacle looks like. And the social tentacle also cares about the things that keep groups together, things like honor, duty, respect. People that are more oriented around those values tend to find that their success is tied into the social tentacle in some sort of way. So what does that mean in a practical sense as a 3D artist, as an example? Well, it means that you might not be happy as a freelancer, because freelancers don't get that same sense of community as somebody who might try to work at a studio does. Perhaps as a freelancer, you don't get all the various drama and personalities and friendships, and the story doesn't really unfold in a way that seems as satisfying to you if you're a freelancer and you're somebody who cares about the social tentacle a lot more. So that's really how this can influence those major decisions. Are you going to be somebody who's happier at a studio or as a freelancer? You can actually get insight just by understanding yourself when it comes to this version of success. So anyway, that is a little bit about the social tentacle. The lifestyle tentacle cares mostly about making the most of each day. And not just about making the most, but by having the freedom to do so as well. Maybe for some folks, the lifestyle is all about going out fishing whenever you want to. Maybe it's about trying to make the most of your life by picking out moments that you enjoy, by trying to make the most of all the good things in life. That's what lifestyle is all about. It's about having the means to do that, the freedom, having balance so that you can keep yourself healthy and happy, flexibility, and ease. The biggest fear for people who have this lifestyle tentacle as their form of success is being trapped in an office where they can't get out and they're forced to not live the life that they want to and making the most of the day. However they see as making the most of the day. I picture lifestyle as existing as kind of one of two things. Either you're the person who wants to play life by your own rules, you don't want to commit because that lacks freedom, and you want to just be able to maneuver however you see fit. Either that's the expression of lifestyle, or on the other hand, lifestyle can be defined by enjoying the work itself. So an example of that is, let's say, a painter who doesn't really mind not having complete autonomy of self-expression. That'd be more of the personal tentacle, but they really just care about being able to draw all day. And if they can do that working for an employer and they don't have to worry about the practical tentacle, then that's great. And they love that. And that's the lifestyle that they want. And so lifestyle doesn't have to be about not working in an office. It could also be about enjoying the work itself. But just so you know, lifestyle looks different depending on which way you go on that. The similarity, though, is that lifestyle is about defining the day how you want to define it. If you thoroughly enjoy crunching numbers all day as an accountant, and that's the lifestyle you like and enjoy, then that can be part of your success. Or if the lifestyle you enjoy is having fun with friends and going skydiving and doing all this crazy stuff and having all of these experiences enriching the day and being able to do that, that's great. A lot of your, let's say, nature photographers are all about the lifestyle. That's why they do it. They do it because they get to be out there in nature. They get to interact with that. And so it's kind of interesting to see the different combinations of tentacles, but lifestyle is about defining the day however you want to do it. And lastly, we have the moral tentacle. This defines success through the impact you make in the world, through honoring the well-being of loved ones in your life, through cherishing those close relationships, by reducing suffering, by improving the future. Much like the social tentacle, this is a people-oriented tentacle in general. However, it's not always group-oriented. It could just be about making an impact in the world as a whole, or it could be making an impact on your loved ones that are close to you, rather than a social group. And so, even though this is close to the social, it's not the same, because this cares about giving of yourself to the world and to others to make it better. Perhaps a good way of describing the difference between the moral tentacle and everything else is this here. While the other tentacles fantasize about what you might do with your life if you had $1 billion in the bank, the moral tentacle fantasizes about the kind of impact you can make if you had $1 billion to deploy, to give away. So, there are many people, yourself or those you know, who really, really care about making good happen in the world, however they see that. People who have the moral form of success as their number one priority care about helping other people, and they measure their success by how much good they've done in the world. As an example, my girlfriend Jess has a moralistic version of success. She wants to help heal people. She wants to bring better wellness to their life through nutrition, through spiritual well-being, through all that kind of stuff. And that is absolutely measured in how you help people. However, there's many people in that field who aren't aligned with that and who care more about their degree, how much money they're making, their ego, than it is trying to help people, right? And so what you'll find is that depending on your career, it may or may not be aligned with what your version of success is. As an example, if you really care about the lifestyle tentacle and you can't stand being trapped into a studio environment for the rest of your life, then you should go out there and be a freelancer. Or if you care more about the social aspect, then maybe you should look into being a producer. Or maybe you should look into contributing to a team at a studio with your work. There's all kinds of different ways that you can take this. This is just kind of a starting ground for ways of thinking about what success means to you. But this is really, really important to figure out, because There are people who will go their whole lives wanting to have their first priority of success met, but they're busy trying to make another tentacle work out in some sort of way, and they just never feel like they can get around to what really matters to them the most. As for myself, I find that my two top versions of success are individualistic, so the personal tentacle, as well as lifestyle. Those two, for me, have always resonated the most. I mean, that's one reason why I'm an entrepreneur. It's because I want to be able to define my own game. That's kind of the whole lifestyle thing, but it's also going out there and trying to be the person that I'm meant to be, right? Trying to take my capabilities and make the most of it. That was really, I think, one of my primary drivers at first to making CG Forge and striking out on my own, and was one of my main motivators to me while I was delivering pizzas, was because I wanted to be sure that my potential and that my capabilities were being fully tapped into. And I just wasn't really happy with myself unless my full capabilities were being expressed and I had the freedom to be able to do that. So for me, it's always been about those two tentacles, and I'm not really a social guy as much, although I do care about those forms of success. I do care about giving to others, but it's not my primary version of success. So again, for me, I would have to say that the personal tentacle and the lifestyle tentacle are extremely important. And fun fact, back when I was delivering pizzas, this is when I first ran into this article, and it really helped me make sense of what was best for me and why I felt better delivering pizzas as I started CG Forge and I was just doing tutorials and I was broke. I felt better doing that than I did with having a stable job at a studio, and I couldn't figure out why that was happening until I read this, and it totally made sense. Anyway, that is all about defining success and what that might mean to you. Whatever it is to you, I want you to have the confidence to go after it, because our lives are too short to not be going after the things that matter to us. You know, the major decisions you make in your life, should I be a freelancer? Should I pursue 3D? Should I go after this or go after that? It all has context in what our version of success is. And you're going to be stressed out your whole life if you're going after something that's not you. So whatever is your version of success, I hope that you have the confidence and faith in being able to pursue those things for your sake and for everyone else's sake, because I feel like when we go after those forms of success, that's when we contribute the most to everyone else, and that's when we feel most aligned to our own lives. So that is a bit about defining success.